The best way I can describe Yokai Watch is fun. I think that if I watched the show as an adolescent, I probably would have been hooked on this franchise. To this day, I have not played the games, but I recently watched a few episodes on Netflix and I've seen a few glimpses of the show on television. It's seriously fun. It's not too different from any other monster catcher collector series, but what it does with its apparitions, aka yokai, as a light-hearted comedy series for people of all ages is seriously good. The three characters that we see the most, Nate, Whisper, and Jibanyan, are all amusing characters in their own way. But for the record, Jibanyan is king. Let's start off with Whisper. Whisper is a yokai butler. He was in tune before Nate found him on a bug catching afternoon and he became friends with him. Whisper acts as a guide to the yokai world, and of course he should be, as he's the one who introduced Nate to yokai. What I love about Whisper is that instead of being an all-knowing, omnipotent guide, he's mostly clueless. It's a running gag throughout the show that every bit of insight Whisper shares with Nate, he's mostly referencing it on his yokai tablet, which I kinda took as a way to poke fun at the Pokédex. Whisper is the one responsible for Nate hunting yokai. When Nate's parents are arguing, Whisper gives Nate the yokai watch so that he can see the reason behind it. Anything and everything that happens in the show has a yokai behind it. Only after the matter does Whisper tell Nate that he can't take the watch off anymore. I like Whisper because even though he's not this all-knowing wise character, he likes to pretend that he is, and I think that at some point we've all acted like we know what we're talking about when we clearly don't. Then there's Jibanyan, who is kinda like the mascot of the franchise, right? I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments. Jibanyan is the most zany and out there character I've seen so far. His backstory is silly, his reason for being found by Nate is ridiculous, but it also shows how far the show goes to have fun with its premise. I think that the most important aspect about Jibanyan is the way he expands the lore of the franchise. It's by means of Jibanyan that we learn that yokai are not just supernatural beings, like the Kappa, who is in fact here as well, but they are also born through the means of death. Jibanyan had a life before becoming a yokai. He had an owner who he slept everywhere with, and he loved it. One day, while crossing a crosswalk, he gets ran over by a truck, and while he's dying, he hears his owner say,
"Can't believe you let yourself get hit by a truck. You lame cat."
So his mission as a yokai now is to become stronger than trucks because his previous owner called him lame. In episode 2, we see Nate fighting a tattletale yokai, and so he summons Jibanyan, and Jibanyan has absolutely no interest in fighting. I think that this may have been a callback to Charizard and Charmeleon refusing to fight for Ash. Jibanyan tells us that even though Jibanyan and Nate are friends, he doesn't actually have to help him because he's not his boss. So again, through Jibanyan, we learn more about the world of yokai. But wait, there's more! In that same episode, Jibanyan is summoned and he shows up with a bruise on his head. Here we learn that when yokai are not around, they are living their own lives. So the show right off the bat gives us an answer unlike the grand old question of what's a Pokemon do inside his Pokeball. Finally, Nate. The show has gone out of its way to make Nate be known as an average boy. Obviously for self-insert purposes, but nonetheless, Nate is down to earth about his interactions. When he meets Whisper for the first time, he didn't take him seriously. Whisper went on and on and on about yokai, and numerously we get to see Nate walk away without a care. He couldn't be bothered. There's an episode where he drops a number 2 at school and his classmate puts him out there in front of everyone. It turns out that it was a yokai that caused his classmate to put him on blast. Whisper tells him that he needs to take care of the yokai because it would cause issues around the city. Nate responds by saying that he doesn't care about the city, he cares about his personal life. That in itself is a very important line about how else I would describe Yokai Watch as, and that would be to say that Yokai Watch is a slice of life story. Unlike other monster pet shows, we're presented with this grand adventure story. In Pokemon, Ash sets out to be a Pokemon master. In Digimon, the chosen children are sucked into the digital world, but in Yokai Watch, well, there doesn't seem to be a grand old narrative. The show is a story about a boy who befriends yokai in his everyday life. There is no grand calling or master plan for Nate. Nate was given a Yokai Watch, and without any thought or anything, he accepts his fate, and I guess that's kinda lame as far as character development goes. But seriously, Who cares? Because the meat and potatoes of this show is the comedy problem solving between Nate and the other yokai. As far as character development goes, a lot of these yokai get fleshed out. One of my favorite yokai so far is Jibanyan, who sometimes has his own segments at the start of the episodes in which he tries to find his calling in life, only to get sent to jail. He's super wacky and he's super fun. He's a salaryman who died and became a human-faced dog yokai. Wacky, right? The show is perfectly fine being episodic. Another fun slice of life show that comes to mind is Squid Girl. Squid Girl stumbled into the lemon shack, made a hole in the wall, and now she works there to pay off her debt. The show's origin is not an important factor. It's kinda just a reason for Squid Girl being in the surface episode after episode. The point of the show is for us to see how Squid Girl gets herself into these squiddy situations. Not every show has to have the grand master narrative. Sometimes it's cool to just sit back and watch some slice of life episodic show. And in this case, ladies and gentlemen, it's Yokai Watch. As far as cartoons as commercials go, it got me interested in the franchise in general. So I might look into a demo of the game and maybe for sure check out the manga, cause apparently there's a manga by Viz. What's your experience with Yokai Watch? How did you like it? Let me know down below and thanks for watching.